Virtual summits are the most powerful online marketing tool available to grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. If you are ready to take your summit to the next level, then tune into the Virtual Summit podcast with Dr. Mark T. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software and creator of the One Day Summit Formula. And I'm on a mission to help you, the summit host, get your summit out to the world in a powerful and impactful way. So let's get started. Hey, Summit host, Dr. Mark T. Wade here, founder of Virtual Summit Software and your host on the Virtual Summit podcast. And we are in for a treat today. On today's episode, you are going to have to tune into this, something we've never talked about before, something that's absolutely fundamental and critical for the success of your summit. And it's something you're going to walk away going, I am so happy I got that information. And it's all because we've got legendary Courtney Shaw with us today. How are you doing today, Courtney?
I'm great. I love your energy. I'm so excited.
Well, thank you very much. I'm stoked. I've got energy because this topic right here is so important. I'm not going to give any hints or any tips away. You're going to have to stay tuned in for this because we're going to go through a lot of this. Courtney's spoken on a lot of summits. When I say a lot of summits, I mean a lot of summits. So we've got a plethora of information and knowledge that we're going to be digging into, and we're going to be taking a really kind of like a deep dive look into her bread and butter, her expertise, and you're going to be so glad you got this information. But before we jump into these summit gems and goodies, Courtney, I would love for you to just take a quick second and let the summit host know just a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah. So like you said, my name's Courtney Shaw. I run a business that is currently called the Rule Breakers Club. And I started my business when I was 23 years old. I was living in Paris in like a tiny room, and I was just so excited about like the possibilities of life, and I never wanted to get a real job. So I was like, how can I make money? And I stumbled upon the online business space. And long story short, I ended up really falling in love with copywriting. I was always obsessed with like culture and humans and psychology and language. I actually have a French degree, so that's how I ended up in France. And it all just, when I learned what copywriting was, I was like, oh my God, this is a thing. Like I can use like psychology and language all together and just create like really powerful language that like makes people do things. Like this is so awesome. So I started doing that in about 2012. And I was in the copywriting space for a long time. I specialized in sales pages and teaching entrepreneurs how to write their own sales pages, because I'm all about like teaching people to fish so they can do it themselves, because copywriting is just a skill. If you don't have it, it's probably the most, like, I'm not saying most important skill, but it's the skill that'll probably help you to grow your business faster than any other skill. And so I don't want anyone to feel stuck on that or like they can't do it. And then what I learned was, while working with clients on sales pages, was that oftentimes it wasn't the copy that they needed. It was actually like the packaging and positioning. So I ended up sort of transitioning my business into teaching entrepreneurs how to create signature services and package their services so that they can book out clients. And it all just brings in the same psychology, right? Of like, it's all about how you position it. It's all about how you talk about it. It's all about like getting into your client, your ideal client's heads, and like reading their minds, actually reading their minds, and using all of that so that you can help people. And so anyway, that's a little bit about my journey.
Virtual Summit's software makes hosting a summit easier than ever. The only software in the world designed specifically for hosting a summit lets you set up a summit in a matter of hours with no tech skill or team needed. You can try out the Virtual Summit's software free at virtualsummits.com. But hurry, this is a limited offer.
I love that. And actually, I'm going to dive right into something right here that you've just mentioned about getting into your client's head and then all about positioning. So we've got summit hosts here that are trying to do summits, right? They're going to be hosting a summit. And one of the most common problems we see, at least at the very beginning, is the messaging is not clear. The messaging is too general. It's not positioned correctly. What's maybe a tip, a strategy, some advice you could give to our summit hosts as they're thinking about how they're going to name or position their summit, or maybe even what they're going to do their summit on, what's some advice you could give them?
I think of this the same way I think about packaging services or courses or products or anything is you need to get really specific about the problem that your summit is solving. And in order to get specific about the problem, you have to get specific about who the person is that the summit is for, and then what's the problem they have. And you have to let them tell you. I feel like too many of us in business, we project what we want to do on our audience. We're like, you need this. And we like shove it down their throats, but they're sitting there. They have problems that they are consciously aware of. You guys might be talking about the same problem, but you need to use their language. So you just forget about what summit you want to do. Just like totally forget about it. Go figure out who your audience is and what they're asking for and like what they're complaining about. Because people love to tell you their problems. You're just not listening. And then make a summit around that. It will literally, like, everyone will be at your summit. Everyone will be. Because I think with summits, people with everything, it's so easy to just be like, oh, I can be broad because it's a summit. But no, actually, it's even more important than to get specific because it's overwhelming because there's so many speakers and it's, like it can feel like drinking out of a fire hose if you're not careful. So getting specific is really important.
And I completely agree with this. So I want to dig into maybe the difference between the name of the summit and potentially the title of the summit. I'd love to get some clarity on this because, we a lot of times will make a broader umbrella, if you will, for the name of the summit. Like maybe it's the Virtual Neurology Summit or the Summit Scripts Summit. And then underneath that is a title that gives a little bit more clarity. Would this be something that would be okay? Like, if a reader's seeing this pass by on Facebook, how would you want that positioned and to stand out?
I think there's two ways you can go with that. I think it depends on your goals. I think if your goal is pure audience growth, then the more general with the name it's gonna get more people, but you're gonna get a lot of people who aren't necessarily the right specific people. And so there's always this game between like, if I'm general, it might attract more people, but if I'm specific, I'm going to attract the right people and I'll attract less of them. And so I think there's a sweet spot there. I don't necessarily think it's one or the other. I mean, you can look at it that way. You can get really, really specific or really, really general. But I would say like, instead of like the virtual neurology summit, I would say, what is the core topic within that, or the core issue within neurology, that we're going to address. And then we're going to get people who are focused on that versus like the general category.
Excellent. And so like, if we had the title, if we had the name and then the title was more specific, directed more towards the problem, based more around the problem that we're solving, that would essentially lead people down that. I love that. That's
absolutely. Yeah.
It's a tough thing for a lot of summit hosts to figure out, especially when they don't have experience in copywriting. It's not necessarily their go-to. So the messaging, I'm really glad we got some of that. Now I'm going to circle back a little bit here to your experience. Like, you started speaking on summits. How long you've been speaking on summits? For a while? About how many summits? When did you start?
Long.
Type of deal.
Yeah, I mean, I've had an online business since 2012, so like they've been a thing. It used to be telesummits before it became summits. That's how long I've been doing summits. I would say I've done dozens, and some of them I used to be more involved with. At this point, I'm a little bit more like, it has to be a really good fit, and I have a lot of boundaries around it just because of like my time and where I'm focusing in my business. But honestly, for me, like the easier that the summit host makes it for me, and the more they kind of let me be like, this is what I want to do. Cause I have that. I realize not all speakers have that. So it can be kind of difficult. It's like, the speaker's this way and the speaker's this way. But for me, the more they can I'll be like, this is the top, if I'm going to do a summit, this is the topic I'm going to talk about. If they're like, yeah, sure. Then it's good to go. It makes it really easy to say yes, so yeah, I've done so many. I have good experiences. I have not as good experiences. But yeah, it's just part of being an online business owner, I think.
Absolutely. And this gives us an amazing opportunity to dig into some of those experiences. What would you say is the biggest benefit, or not even biggest benefit, like what makes the biggest difference for you as a speaker on the benefits you get from
Mhm.
speaking on a summit when it comes down to summits?
Yeah. So number one, this is really important. I have to look at the summit and make sure it's aligned with what I'm doing. And a lot of that's about topic, audience. It's also about diversity. So it's become really important to me to also see that like the person hosting the summit is selecting a diverse group of speakers. I'm talking like gender, race, whatever it is. I want to see that. That's just like, for me, that's sort of like a thing I want to be a part of at this point. And I'm almost more willing to say yes to something because of that, because I'm like, yes, this person is like, our values are aligned. So that's the first thing, is just like values alignment. Then it's organization. How easy are you making this for me? So number one, when you sent me the initial email inviting me, or if we asked for more information, do you have like really clear, like, here's the dates, here's the topic we're thinking for you, or like this category, here's how it works, here's what we need from you. Like, I just need like a one sheet of like, what are the expectations from me? And like, I just want to get that gut instinct of like, oh, this person's got it together. At that point, like, it's just a matter of like, can I or not? And then if I have the space for it, then we say yes. And if not, it's just like, hey, this time we're just too busy. And it's not a matter of, you know, the alignment or the organization or anything like that. It's just a matter of, you know, bandwidth.
Yeah, absolutely. There. Now, when we dig down into that, the summit host reaching out, let's assume that, well, actually, let's go into, are there any kind of summit no-nos, any things that kind of turn you off or not, like summit hosts should be should know, like, not to do this?
Be careful. You're going to open up a can of worms. I feel like, I'm just kidding.
Bring it.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is really just a sense of like, this person is just trying to get my audience. Like, they just want me to send my people to them. And the number one red flag for me is the audience size, like requirement. So we need you to have this many people in our audience, or something like that. And I've had a couple experiences where they flat out just said, we are looking for this size audience. And I'm just like, nope, like I'm not doing that. Because what that says to me is all you care about is the numbers. And you're not actually reaching out to me because of like the importance to you about helping your people in this topic. I know that summits are great for audience growth. Obviously, we're business owners. We all know that, but that cannot be the only thing. It's just not good relationship building. And the second thing would just be when I can tell they're just really new or unorganized. So at this point, I'm just in a place in my business, I can't, in that case, one thing I will say, so I've had people who are in my audience, they're hosting their first summit. They've been following me for a long time. They want me to speak at their summit. When I say to them is this, what I can do for you is we can do a recorded interview and you can use that in the summit, but I can't guarantee that I can send emails and stuff like that. So we can do that if me being a speaker is important to you. And some people say yes and some say no. I totally understand, right? Because I'm basically like, I can't guarantee I'm even going to send people to this. But it's sort of that way of helping out the people who are starting out, but also having my boundary on, I can't email everybody about every summit and do everything. So that's sort of how I mitigate that. No,
it makes a lot of sense too. And I'm totally with you. We call them list grabbers, and we are totally anti-list grabbery over here. So.
Good. I like to hear that. Yeah.
So I want to allocate enough time for us to get into this your expertise and dig down into the copywriting aspect. And we're going to talk about swipe copy, but before we jump into that, so I just heard everybody's ears prick up because we haven't talked about how to set up your summit swipe copy in a good way, or in any way really, for your speakers. But before I go into that, you popped an idea into my head, and you talked about, you've helped not only with like sales page copy types of stuff, but also positioning of programs and things. And it got me thinking, a lot of weak points on summits can be around their summit offer and positioning, or even creating, or what to add. I'm like, I'm totally tired of just seeing summit all access passes. So could you give us, and I get it, like we can have the all access pass, but there's just got to be a better, cooler, nicer, funner, something way of positioning what we're going to offer to the audience who is participating on our summit. So is there anything, and I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but you said you know how to dance and you can be on your toes here.
No, I love it. Yeah.
So let's go with this. Can you give us some advice and suggestions when either crafting a summit offer or even just say the summit offer is there? How do we position it?
Yeah. So a lot of summits I've done, obviously, like, they have the all access pass, and then they'll also say like, is there like a product you want to include? And so I think if you're going to do that, you can't position it as just like an amalgamation of a bunch of people's products. Like, it's just not going to sell. It's overwhelming. They don't know what things, it's not how sales works. So how sales works is, do you have this problem? Do you want this result? Here's the thing that will help you get there. And so you have to figure out, what is the through line? What is the overall problem? And how can you kind of organize the things that, and I'm going kind of on like, if all the speakers are giving you stuff, or most of them are, kind of organize those products into like some kind of framework. So if your summit was about like how to launch a course, and you got a bunch of different products from people about courses, and I give the sales page kit and somebody else gives like a Facebook Live formula, or I don't know, is organize it into like creating your offer, selling your offer, like make it almost like modules, like package it up in a way that makes logical sense so that it has a higher perceived value to the person buying it. It's not just like, oh, here's like a money grab. You call it like a list grab, then it's a money grab. It's like, no, like, you can still sell the same thing, but you need to show people it's really valuable by giving that, like, here's the problem you have. I call it the rainbow of sales. You've got the cloud on one side, the pot of gold on the other, and then the rainbow in between. And you've got to show them, I understand your cloud. I understand your frustration. I understand like you're stuck in this area. That's what the summit is about. You've gotten a taste of that from the summit, from all these speakers. But here you can get this entire library of products in an order that will help you to get this result that makes sense. And it's a no-brainer. You have to make it a no-brainer, not like, oh, should I spend like $97 on that thing? It should be like, oh my God, I can't believe that thing is only $97.
Oh, I love that. The rainbow of sales. And I like that, taking it, because most summit hosts they're either adding something of their own that's maybe some kind of lead magnet or a program they have, but like I see that quite a bit. It's like a bunch of just random things kind of thrown in there to make it seem or feel of more value. But even if it is random, find a way to make it not random and fit into a simplified version.
You got to package it. Yep.
Package it inside of the rainbow of sales. I love this.
You'll make more money, so it's a good thing.
And you'll help more people. Will probably be more clear on what they're actually getting.
Exactly, and they'll actually probably use it. And then ultimately, our goal is to help people get results in their lives and businesses. So, like, yes, we're making more money, but also they're going to be more likely to use it because it made sense to them. Like, it's like a plan of action to them. So yeah, I think it's just the best all around way to do it.
Be sure to check out the speaker management tool inside your virtual summit software, which lets you quickly and easily recruit and manage your speakers on your virtual summit, literally eliminating hundreds of hours of work. Get more information at virtualsummits.com.
So good. Okay. I want to shift up our gears a little bit and focus back into copy aspect, but for like specifically in swipe copy. So maybe you can start off with a little bit of your experience on how it's been as a speaker with some of the maybe not so good experiences. So we can clarify what those are when it comes to swipe copy. And let's start at that point.
Yeah. So I'm going to preface this by saying, like, I am a busy, overwhelmed, easily overwhelmed business owner. And so sometimes you have to put yourself in that mindset of like, when that speaker is opening up the copy, it's just like one of many things that they're doing that day. And it's something that sometimes feels like extra, and it can sometimes be like, oh, I got to look at this. And it's like that unknown. I'm going to open the copy and it's going to overwhelm me to see all this copy. So I think just knowing that and like reassuring the speakers, like, it's super easy, it's plug and play, it's going to be really simple, you're going to love it, it's going to make your life easy, is great. So like before they even open the copy, like just reassure them about that. Then like the thing that I've experienced is getting copy delivered to me like in random ways. So like I've worked with summits where they email you everything separately. So then we're like, wait, where was the email with the swipe copy? Like, where did that go? And then we're like doing it the last minute and we're all stressed out. So again, I'm not trying to say like, it's good that I'm doing things at the last minute. I'm just saying, as a summit host, know that your speakers are going to do that and like have that compassion for them and sell them on it. Just like the rainbow sales for selling the product, you got to sell your speakers on this too, and show them the value of it. And just, you know, you can email them to remind them like, hey, just reminder, like emails should start going out today. Here's the link to the swipe copy, but don't make that the only time you've ever sent them the swipe copy. And then they have to fish around in emails. So one thing that I personally love is when it's just like, I had somebody, I did, it was more of like an affiliate of like all the different pieces of copy, what it was for, what date to send it, and then the link to the document that had that copy. And I just loved having that just sort of like overview. And then I opened the one that has the email that I need, or I opened the one with the emails in general. And that way I was just less overwhelmed. And that was something just from like an organizational point of view. When I'm like, oh, I need to send out an email about this, I can just open this spreadsheet, click on the thing, and it's right there. It just made my life so much easier.
And having it all in one place, just like you said too. I mean, so many times it's in multiple emails. And again, the more difficult it's going to be, as you just said, for the speaker, the less likely they're going to do it. So,
and then you're not getting those leads.
Exactly.
And
So let's now like dig into like the process of creating. Let's assume we're going to make this easy and simple for the speaker, but now we got to create copy. And this is this is an area that is not an expertise or an easy area for a lot of us. We're not all gifted with
even I avoid writing copy. So like, I know everybody does.
Okay. So perfect. So help us walk through a process or a way of creating some swipe copy for our speakers that we can do.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, what I'm going to say is just like that spreadsheet, is the first thing you do is not open up a document and start writing. Never. That's like, I know you're going to fail if that's what you're doing. It's so stressful. I would love people to pull out a piece of paper and just on a piece of paper, do a mind map, like right in the center, summit copy, swipe copy, and then just start brainstorming. What's the copy I even want to create? What are my ideas for the copy? Just so you can get it out of your head. The reason I love mind maps, and I teach this as a writer's process in all of my programs, is it mimics how your brain functions. It's not, it's something we did as kids, and sometimes it seems a little bit like childish, but it actually imitates how your brain fires its neurons. And so you're saying like summit copy. Okay, the first thing, emails. Okay, what emails do I need to send? And you're actually activating that creativity in a really streamlined, simple way. So I say do that first. Get clear on what is the copy I'm even going to create. Choose the copy you're going to create. Make a list of it. Then what I do is I just start doing bullet points. Just like I do like 3 bullet points for each thing. Really rough outline. So I might even just be like, subject line needs to make people excited. I'm not writing the subject line. I'm just getting it out of my head. What do I want to get out of this subject line for this email? 3 bullet points of like, I need to introduce myself in the summit. I need to give the person space to introduce why they're promoting the summit. I need to make sure I give the bullet points of the summit, call to actions, just like whatever you need to put in that email, just bullet point it. And I bullet point all of them before I write any of them. So I just get all that done. And this is, by the way, this works for social media copy. This is how I write my own copy. Like, this is how you do all copy. And then I'll go in and say, okay, now I'm going to change it for Apple iTunes, a crappy first draft. It's normally an SFD if anyone wants to fill in the blanks there. We need to create a crappy first draft of each of your emails, each of your things that you're creating swipe copy for. And I mean crappy because we need to let go of whatever that urge is in us. And I have it too still of like, as I'm writing this, it has to be perfect as I'm writing it. I want it to be the worst email you've ever written. And guess what? It's probably not going to be that bad. And then you can go through and do all of them, right? Do the crappy draft of all of the things. And then you go through and refine it and finesse it and add, oh, I want to add a little flair here. Let's tweak some subject lines, but just let the crap come out. Like, just let it come out just in the worst possible way. You'd be surprised. Like, copy isn't about being fancy or clever or creative. It's about being clear. And normally the first thing that comes out of your mouth or your pen or whatever is the most clear. It's when we overthink it that it ends up being complicated. So in terms of process, that's what I recommend. And then we can get into some tips for like what to actually put in an email.
Yeah, we're gonna jump into that as well.
Yeah.
But first, like, I'd love to get your thoughts on when writing swipe copy. Okay, we always hear use your voice, let your voice come out, etc. And I get that, and to me that makes sense, especially like if you're writing the summit copy from you to an audience. But if we're writing swipe copy, we're not writing the copy from us. We're writing it for a speaker. So what's your thoughts on, having your voice come through versus how do we write it for a speaker to be able to use?
I say write it as you first. And then when you're revising it, you're looking at, okay, is this something that would work for, like, I call them, so anytime I'm using somebody as inspiration, I call them your muses, right? Because that's what a muse is. So then think through your speakers and say, okay, would this work? Could they tweak this for their voice? Yes. Could they tweak this for just kind of run through a few people to just kind of give yourself a filter of, am I going too kooky on this copy? Is my copy tend to be like overly aggressive, or does it tend to be overly, like, I know people who write copy and like, hey, sweetheart, like, and they use all these like little flowery language and that's their brand, but like, that's not going to work for everybody. So maybe like go through and kind of like cut that stuff out a little bit and then make it kind of like the more pared down version and allow your speaker to add flair where they want to add flair that's on brand for them. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I like that. And it makes sense, right, as your own first. And I guess you could even, in a way, like, just because I can hear some hosts already going like, oh, I can't do, like, there's so many extra steps and probably got like 1,000 things going on, is you write out the copy you're going to send first.
Yes.
Right? And then look at how you can alter that potentially for
just
swipe
copy and paste it. Don't reinvent it. Like, don't start from scratch with this. If you already have those emails, when you're doing that bullet point list, you're just saying, this is what needs to be in this email. Oh, I already wrote this section for my landing page for my summit. Oh, I already wrote this part for my emails. Like, just plug it in. And then, you don't need to like rewrite everything. Absolutely. It's a really good point.
And I like the mind map idea as well, like to get over that blank page syndrome. I know I procrastinate so much because when I'm sitting there going, once I get 2 or 3 emails in, I'm good, like, full speed ahead. But it's that initial, like, where am I even going with this? So love the mind map. So we've got a little bit of time left here. So in the last aspect, let's get some of those tips, tools, strategies for creating some quality summit emails.
Yeah. So there's 3 main things I think are really important and things I look for as a speaker and a copywriter. And I'm going to tell you guys, like, I'm a copywriter, but if you got some swipe copy for me, I'm going to do very little with that swipe copy. I want my job to be easy. I'm going to add what I need to add and I'm going to send it. Like, I'm not going to be that worried about it. I'm going to read through it and I may add a couple little things, but I'm just like, I'm so happy I don't have to write that email. So the first thing, so important, is subject lines. You've got to give people a couple of options of subject lines, because one thing that speakers worry about is we're all going to be sending the same freaking subject line. So if you can give us just a couple of options, even 2, 3 would be great too, but you don't need to go that far, that we can kind of, 2 allows us to see where you're going with that, like what you were thinking we should say. And then if we want to change it, that's fine. But it also just creates some variety in the people sending emails about your summit, which can be nice. So subject lines are number 1. And you don't have to be an expert subject line writer. Just brainstorm a list of them. Brainstorm 10 subject lines and then pick the 2 best ones. And that's fine. Like, the second thing I would say is what's so important in summit emails is making sure that there's intro pieces of who you are and what your summit is, but from the third person. Right? So you need to make sure when somebody is saying, hey, I want to invite you to this summit that my friend Bob is putting on, like, I'm talking about Bob in the third person, you really got to hear about Bob. This is his bio. And it's going to feel so weird and egotistical because you're going to be writing about like why you're so amazing in the third person. I think it's the weirdest thing to do, but you have to do that, and you've got to brag about yourself, because the speaker is trying to brag about you to their people to get you to go to the summit. And if you don't brag about like your like bio, like what you would give to a podcast or anything, then people are going to be like, who's the host? And ultimately, like, you want these new people to be like, oh wow, Courtney recommended Bob. He must be amazing because I really trust Courtney because I've been in her audience for a while. And you don't want to lose that. It's one of the best things about like using like OPA, other people's audiences, is that they're transferring trust to you. So make sure that you're really beefing up why you're amazing and writing that in the third person in those emails. I think that's maybe people feel weird about that, so they might not do it. And then the third thing I think is really important is be clear where you want your speaker to insert their details and like what details you want them to put. It doesn't have to, don't get overwhelmed here. It just needs to be like, insert why you said yes to this summit. Like, but tell them and kind of highlight that for them. This is where I need you to input this information. And you can even say, insert 1 to 2 sentences about why you said yes to this summit. And that will really help wherever you feel like, oh, this needs to come from them. It's like Mad Libs. Where do they need to fill in the blanks for this email to make sense?
That is so good right there. And that right there allows the kind of customization of that swipe copy as well. So, and it is so important, especially if it's a smaller summit, you're just getting started, you don't have a ton of speakers, not having like 3 options of subject lines, you could probably get away with that. But
yeah, exactly.
If you're wanting for this summit to go out there and crush it, you also, it's not only just the subject lines and how they affect the audience, right? But this is also, the speakers are judging this, right? They're looking at how well is this, how easy is this, how professional is this, and the more a summit host can stand out, they impress the speakers as well, right?
Yeah, and one thing I want to add about the subject lines that just occurred to me while you were saying that, because it's so true, is like, when I give 2 options for subject lines, a really good way to think of it is like a more aggressive, straightforward subject line and a softer subject line. Because sometimes it's more about like what's more on that person's brand. Like, I love an aggressive subject line. Like, I love to just get to the point. But I know that there's people who would be like, I never would send an email with that subject line. So I need to give them an option for like a less aggressive subject line. So you could think of it that way, and that might make it easier. It's not like, oh, I have to think of 2 awesome subject lines. It's like, think of one that's more straightforward and one that's less, like, that's a little bit more subtle, and that's enough. And then you're kind of pleasing the range of people that you have sending those emails.
With the Ever Summit feature inside the Virtual Summit software, you can rerun your summit as if it were live, ongoing forever with one click of a button. This now lets you continue to use your summit forever, bringing in qualified and engaged leads every month into your business. Get more information at virtualsummit.com.
No, that is really good right there. And that's a really great way to think of it. The little bit more passive versus aggressive. That's going to be important because you're right. Like, even me and my partner, she's going to want to send a different type of subject line than I am. I'm like the comical, like I'm going to put something that may offend somebody just because it's going to get
like
their
more
attention.
Out there. Yeah.
So no, this is great. So we're going to be wrapping this up. This has been phenomenal. But before we do, I would love for you to kind of just give like another one more strategy maybe that summit hosts can take when they're let's say they've written their copy, right?
Yeah.
And again, a lot of these are newer business owners. They're just getting started. They don't have the funds available to send it out, to have somebody else write it or double check it. What can they do to kind of just like, I've got it. What's that last little filter I can do to make sure like, okay, I'm comfortable sending this out to the speakers now?
Yeah, right. Because you're second guessing yourself. Like, is this good? So I would say having a trusted business friend who maybe if you say, hey, can you just like scan these emails and tell me if they're crazy? Or does this make sense? Not your mom, not your wife or your husband if they don't understand business, because they won't get it, because copywriting is a very specific thing. And also, like, the worst person you can ask copywriting help from is a writer who's not a copywriter, because they think they know, and it is not the same thing. So I'm saying like a business person, if you're in a program, you can say, hey, I'm just looking for someone to like Just tell me like, and make sure really specific what you're asking for. Because if you're just like, give me feedback, they might give you the craziest feedback. But say like, look, I just want to make sure A, these emails make sense. B, would you take action on these? C, would you send these to your audience? And if not, why not? Like, what would you change? And that would be a really great way of getting that initial impact from that person. And just don't take your copy personally. Like I don't take my copy personally, and I've been doing it for years. Copy is there to do a job. It's there to get a result. It's there to get someone to take action. And if that's not happening, you want that to happen versus like you feel good about it, right? I'd rather you get the result you want than get validation that your copy is amazing. So just don't take it personally, and just kind of maybe disassociate yourself from it while you're writing it. And that will also help with the perfectionism thing, because a lot of us are just like, this has to be good because it's my voice. People are going to judge me. Just like disassociate from that and be like, this is a task I need to get done and I'm writing it. Like, that's it.
It is definitely a task, but a very, very important task. And I've got one more question, one final question that just popped up into my mind. I'm curious. Short form versus long form copy on the swipe emails. What's your thoughts on that?
I love both. I love both. I think that in order to like really it's like short conversations versus long conversations. Like if you want like a full relationship with somebody, like you sometimes have superficial conversations. You sometimes have deep conversations. If you're always deep, people are gonna be like, dude, you are so heavy all the time. If you're always superficial, people are gonna be like, where's the depth? So I feel like it's like any relationship, play with it. Like, and that's another great note. Like if you have the bandwidth, if you write long form emails and then you can just create like a shorter version for people, that's good. Cause like your speakers might have a preference on that. I, as a copywriter, I know how to hack an email down if I'm like, I don't want to send all this stuff, but your speaker might not want to do that. And I'd rather not do it, obviously. I'd rather it just be done for me. So that's a great question, because it's also something to consider.
Love it. Well, Courtney, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I know our summit hosts are sitting there going, Mark, I need more Courtney in my life. Where can I find her? Where does she hang out at? How can I get in touch with her? So let them know where you're hanging out at.
Yeah, I would say that like number one, pull out your phone, go on Instagram and follow me at Courtney Shawl. Shawl is Chaal. Doesn't sound like that. That's where I'm hanging out the most and having the most fun. My website is rulebreakersclub.com. But honestly on Instagram, because the link in my bio is where I put all my best resources. So like, if you're just like, where do I get the next thing? Or like, how can she help me more? Like whatever, Instagram, link in my bio, I link up what my best resources are. So that'd be great. But what I would really love is if you were listening, like come send me a DM, because I want to hear, and I'd love to like establish a relationship with you guys too. So, and I'd love to hear about your summits.
That is super valuable right there. Send Courtney a DM on Instagram.
Please.
Courtney, This has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and share all of your amazing wisdom and gems with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a really fun topic.
I had a blast. And thank you, all you Summit hosts, for tuning in to Courtney and I. I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, your host here on the Virtual Summit Podcast. And just remember, your message matters. So go out there and make an impact in the world. Don't forget to head over to the show notes to get all of these amazing gems and information that Courtney just shared with us over at podcast.virtualsummits.com/132. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit Podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the Summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.